The icy wind howled down Lexington Avenue like a warning. New York's winter didn't ask for permission, it simply arrived, swallowing the city in cold steel-gray skies and breath-snatching gusts. At 10:57 p.m., the streets were nearly empty, save for the tired, the forgotten, and the ones who couldn't afford to leave early. And her. Claire Daniels stood alone at the bus stop, trembling under a thin hospital cardigan, her scrubs damp with melted snow. Her shift had run 3 hours over, the cafeteria had closed, and she'd given her last $20 to a desperate patient who needed a ride home. She hadn't eaten in nearly a day. The city's cold didn't just settle on her skin, it pierced her bones. Just across the street, inside a sleek black Escalade with heated seats and tinted windows, James Whitmore watched. He hadn't meant to be there. His meeting had ended early, and his driver had taken a detour through his old neighborhood, a place he hadn't visited in over a decade. James was a billionaire CEO of a national health tech company, a man known for mergers and profits, not sentiment or impulse. But as he stared out the window at the woman shivering by the lamppost, something inside him stirred. He saw her try to sit on the icy bench, her hands stiff and blue. Then she reached into her bag, pulling out a half-eaten protein bar and splitting it in half before tucking one piece away. She's saving half, for later? James leaned forward. Pull over. The driver hesitated. Sir? James had already opened the door. Excuse me, he said, his breath clouding the air. Claire startled and rose to her feet, defensively clutching her bag. I don't mean to alarm you, he added quickly. You look like you've had a long night. Her eyes, tired but fierce, met his. I'm fine. Just waiting for the bus. No offense, he said, glancing down the dark road, but that bus isn't coming. Not tonight. Black ice warning shut half the city down. Claire looked away. Then I'll wait for the next one. James paused, watching her shiver. He could have walked away, should have. He had done it 100 times before. But something in her, her dignity, her quiet strength, her refusal to ask, anchored him. Look, he said, pulling off his coat. You're freezing. At least take this. She stared at the designer coat. I don't want charity. It's not charity, he said. It's kindness. Claire hesitated, then slowly took it. She sank into the warmth, her eyes closing for just a second. Thank you. Claire. He blinked. How'd you? You still wear your ID badge, she said, pointing to the lanyard around his neck. James Whitmore. CEO of MedWorks. I discharge patients who can't afford your app every day. That hit harder than he expected. He could have gotten defensive. But instead, he nodded. Then maybe it's time I learned more about the people my software fails. Claire looked at him, puzzled. Come with me, he said. I'll take you home. I don't need saving. And I don't do saving, he replied. But tonight, you could use a ride. Maybe a meal. Maybe someone who listens. 30 minutes later, she sat in his penthouse kitchen, wrapped in fleece, sipping hot tea. The place was everything she wasn't, shiny, massive, untouched by life. Yet James didn't hover. He just sat across from her, genuinely listening. He asked her about her patients, about what it was like to work 16-hour shifts for underpaid hospitals. She told him about the young mother who couldn't afford her child's asthma meds, the grandfather who walked 5 miles to dialysis because the app glitched. She didn't complain, she reported, like a soldier. At some point, James asked, why do you keep doing it? Claire met his eyes. Because somebody has to. If I quit, who's left? For the first time in years, James felt shame and clarity. 3 weeks later. James stood at the podium at a national health conference, the media watching. The CEO, known for aggressive takeovers, announced a new initiative: free premium access to MedWorks for all low-income and essential workers, funded personally, indefinitely. Reporters exploded with questions. Why now? What changed? James glanced at the cameras and smiled. I remembered what it's like to be cold, and see someone colder. And do something about it. Claire never asked him for help. Never reached out again. But the next winter, a nurse at the same bus stop found an envelope tucked under the bench. Inside, a winter coat, a prepaid subway card, and a handwritten note. The world needs more people like you. And I'm finally trying to be one of them. JW. Sometimes, kindness isn't loud. It's a quiet ride home on a frozen night that changes everything.